Hey guys, what's going on? Cyber Fury here, bringing you guys a commentary of all things. It's been a very long time since I've done one of these. In fact, it's been 2 years, and the last time I did, I talked about the Crew's closed beta. It's kind of funny thinking about the gap between commentaries concerning I wanted to try and build a channel off of gameplay commentaries, but that just never really happened. But anyway, I'm here to talk about the Battlefield 1 open beta. Like many people, I've had kind of a mixed bag of feelings about this game. It is fun and it is new, but new doesn't necessarily mean better. There are a lot of radical changes I feel since the last Battlefield installment, and by that I mean Battlefield 4, because I never really saw Battlefield Hardline as a true Battlefield installment. Don't get me wrong, it was still a fun game, but it just never really felt like it was a true Battlefield game. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that Battlefield Hardline was the best Call of Duty that EA published. Diving into Battlefield 1, the first thing I noticed is that there's an increased movement speed. Now I'm not sure statistically if that is true, but it definitely feels like your soldier is lighter and more agile, able to cross a wider distance of land than you could in Battlefield 4 or even Battlefield 3. With this agility comes a increased vaulting range, as you can jump over smaller walls and not only constricted to jumping over waist-high barriers. It's a good change, and it's definitely a very warm welcome in my opinion because I love being shot at and just jumping over a wall to get out of somebody's line of sight. There's also an increased strafing speed that I have found, and it's kind of almost Battlefront-like. You will have somebody run up with a pistol and start strafing left and right really quickly while spraying you down almost instantaneously with their pistol. It doesn't really feel like it fits in the Battlefield games, but it does make sense with the increased agility of the soldier because they might have less armor to carry around as well as less equipment to carry around. The 4 main classes also have no parachute when you spawn. So in previous games, you were able to jump off a building and parachute to safety, taking little to no damage at all. In this game, there is no parachute to save you. You will hit the ground, and you will hit the ground hard. It is not a fun learning experience when you jump off a building and go, oh yeah, I can just pull my parachute, to find out that there is no parachute. Moving on to the destruction of this game, it still feels limited, pretty much as limited as it was in Battlefield 4. It's still not as glorious as it was in Battlefield Bad Company 2, and it almost feels kind of scripted, like they're going from building model to building model based on where the building is hit. This may not actually be true, and it could be dynamic destruction, but it just feels very scripted and limited. Moving on to the combat system of this game, it seems like you take less damage to die, but in return you also have to deal less damage to kill someone. This makes sense as soldiers pretty much had less protection than they do today. It also feels harder to aim. The aiming system itself feels almost floaty, and I can see why they did this if they wanted to bring a more realistic and kind of weighted feeling to the aiming, but it ends up almost feeling like there's a little bit of mouse lag between when you move your mouse and when it's translated on the screen. This very well may be addressed at full release, but right now it just feels kind of weird and kind of awkward. I've also found that the guns are less accurate than they have been in previous titles. This also makes sense to the time period that the game is set in, and is actually a warm welcome to the series. No longer will you have guns essentially shooting lasers, but they will actually miss from time to time even when you're looking at the same spot on a wall or on a person. There is also increased recoil in a lot of the guns, especially the SMGs when compared to Battlefield 4. This also makes sense as recoil wasn't really addressed in the guns manufactured in World War I, and the technology wasn't as advanced as it is today. The melee system feels kind of weird. Yes, they've added the bayonet charge, which is also a warm welcome as it's awesome to pull off. It doesn't work in close combat. It almost feels like you have to have a premeditated plan to bayonet charge somebody from a little distance away, rather than saying, oh, there's somebody around the corner with his back towards me, I can just melee him and take him down. Another thing is that the melee system almost feels less like takedowns and more like finishing moves. If you've played Medal of Honor Warfighter, you know that if you gave somebody enough damage and then tomahawked them, it went through this kind of animation. It's a really cool animation and it felt brutal. But there seems to be no more takedowns from sneaking up behind somebody in this game. I could be wrong, I could just not be triggering it correctly, but it just feels like there is no such thing as takedowns anymore, and it's just kind of finishing moves. Moving to the vehicles, there's a wide variety of vehicles, as there should be in any Battlefield game. This includes the light tank, the landship, biplanes, horses, as well as lighter, more civilian-feeling vehicles. Although these vehicles are different, they also feel like reskinned mechanics. The light tank feels like any light tank, but the exception is that it seats one person. This is really funny to figure out when you hop in a light tank and your teammate tries to do the same and gets mowed down right in front of you. The landship just kind of feels like a reskinned Amtrak, with the driver kind of driving around and having various guns all around them to protect them. The biplanes, well, they're kind of like the jets, but they move a wee bit slower and they don't have the rate of fire or the protection that the jets have in Battlefield 3 and in Battlefield 4. The horses kind of feel like the dirt bikes, except for the fact that you can shoot off of them, or you can use a machete to kill enemies, and it only seats one person as well. The light, kind of civilianized vehicles also feel like the buggies from Battlefield, or the Jeeps from Battlefield 3 and 4, where you have a gun on the back and 2 seats in the front. Moving on to classes, this seems to be the most radical change that they've made. They've reshuffled the classes a little bit, but they've still kept the same formula from Battlefield 4. 3 out of the 4 classes can attack vehicles, similar to Battlefield 4, then compared to Battlefield 3, where only 2 classes could attack vehicles. The Assault class has switched places with the Engineer. They've kind of replaced the Engineer in the fact that these guys are now your anti-tank personnel. They have SMGs, and they are very deadly up close, as well as having an anti-tank grenade and C4. The Medic replaces the Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 Assault class. These guys are now your healers. They're kind of a little bit closer tied to, I would say, like Bad Company 2's Medic. They have a longer range weapon and primarily specialize in semi-automatic rifles. The support more or less stays the same, with resupplying ammo to teammates and kind of being the backbone of letting your team stay out on a good run. The Recon class more or less stays the same, as they're basically primarily focused on spotting people and helping your teammates see where the enemy is. They also have the anti-vehicle round, but it's not very strong, as it's mostly geared towards the very light, almost Jeep-like vehicles, and as well as the lighter tanks and even the planes if you can get close enough. The new class here, however, is the Pilot and Tanker class. Now this class is given to you when you spawn, if you spawn inside of a vehicle. If you spawn as a pilot, you will then have a parachute to parachute out of your plane with, as well as a different setup. Same goes with the Tanker, and I think the Horseman is also affected by this class change. Some of the new features that they have included in Battlefield 1, in this map specifically, is the train, which kind of takes effect of the middle part of the map. All of the flags kind of towards the middle are directly affected by the train. The train is heavily armed and it has a lot of guns on it. You will get wrecked if you try to face the train one-on-one. This affects all of the flags in the middle of the map for Conquest, and almost kind of makes it a pain to play against when the enemy team has it. There's a new scoring system for attacking enemies, in that you get points for all of the damage you cause to an enemy, plus an extra 20 points for kill, which now equates to 120 points a kill, rather than 100 points a kill in the previous installments. The Levolution still seems like a feature, but it's less of a forefront feature now. It's kind of in the background, saying that it's still prominent in affecting gameplay. In this map, you have the sandstorm that kind of affects your vision of different enemies in different parts of the map, but it still kind of seems like they don't really focus on it as heavily as they did in Battlefield 4. The sounds are still spectacular, but they've mixed it up a little bit. When you die, there's a faint, sad music that plays in the background, which is very appropriate to how devastating the death toll was in World War I, but there's also intense music in the middle of firefights and huge moments, which kind of pulls me away a little bit from this game. It almost feels Battlefront-like, where Battlefront would have a bunch of music going around in the background, and it doesn't really feel so like Battlefield. Saying that, it's not bad, it's just different, and I'm sure there's an option to turn it off in the menus. But other than that, for sounds, everything sounds proper, everything sounds like it should, which is good and kind of what we're expecting coming from a Battlefield game. My final thoughts on this game, it's great. It's fun to play, and it's very fast paced. Almost too fast paced for a Battlefield game, and it almost feels like a Medal of Honor game. Somebody in the comments on one of the posts that I saw kind of wrapped it up nicely, and they said that it feels almost like a tighter, more polished Medal of Honor rather than a Battlefield game. I can agree with this, and I can almost say this game almost reminds me of Battlefront a lot, more than it does of a proper Battlefield title. It's still good, it's still fun, it's just different. Anyway, that about wraps it up for me. If you guys enjoyed, please remember to leave a like, comment down below on what you think I should improve on, if there is any, and don't forget to subscribe as well for more Battlefield 1 videos. And I'm going to try and get more commentaries into the mix and get a little bit better at commentating over gameplay. Other than that, I thank you guys for watching. My name is Cyberfury, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.